another movie breakdown, and this one I'm excited about. I loved it, but I always love psychological movies. But yeah, it's called 1984: The Psychology of Control Awakening in the Inverted World. So yeah, the movie is called 1984. It's a documentary on the human mind, on psychological slavery, on collective trauma, on colonization, on narcissistic abuse, on spiritual inversion, and on a world where people don't just obey the system, they love the system. This isn't fiction, it's a mirror. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So, the movie opens with something most people miss. A man on a screen called Goldstein is literally telling the truth, warning the people, exposing the system, and the crowd starts screaming at him. Not because he's wrong, but because they were told he was a traitor. People don't respond to truth. People respond to conditioning. This is a psychology of the modern world. If the media labels someone dangerous, the masses attack. If the system says he's a conspiracy theorist, people stop thinking. If the system says she's crazy, people stop listening. You don't have to silence the truth. You just have to teach people to hate the one speaking it. That's how deeply controlled minds operate. Everything in the movie is inverted. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. This is the same way modern society lives. Lies are truth, corruption is praise, numbness is normal, obedience is sold as empowerment, conformity is labeled sanity, depth is mocked. This is the upside down world. And Stranger Things. A world where thinking is dangerous and blind obedience is virtue. The prisoners are even called thought criminals because it's like they think for themselves. And the writer is trying to say maybe in the future, if you are the type to think for yourself, it will become illegal too. So thought criminals, all right. They were people who once questioned, awakened, loved, felt, rebelled. In this world, to think is to sin in the movie, right? To feel is rebellion, to see clearly is treachery. This is why I said, so basically, it's like a psych ward for anyone who thinks for themselves. And the scariest part, we are moving into a world where questioning narratives is suspicious. Thinking critically is dangerous. Spiritual insight is mocked. Emotional intelligence is pathologized. Thought crime isn't fictional. It's happening. But it looks different now. People aren't killed. They're discredited, shadow banned, ridiculed, silenced socially, labeled mentally ill, called crazy, dramatic, delusional, or problematic. The same mechanism, different century. O'Brien's monologue is one of the most terrifying things ever written. He says, "We will erase you from the stream of history. There will be no memory of you. Reality exists only in the human mind, and we control the mind." So he's not talking about killing Winston's body. He's talking about killing Winston's identity, perception, intuition, inner truth, spiritual autonomy, and his soul. This is the exact method used by colonizers, cults, narcissists, abusive partners, religious institutions, government, social conditioning. They don't want to destroy your body. They want to destroy yourself so they can rebuild you in their image. This is psychological execution. So the scene where the four fingers get mentioned is core of the entire movie. O'Brien holds up four fingers. He says, "How many fingers am I holding up?" Winston says, "4." O'Brien's like, "No, nigga, wrong answer." So O'Brien tortures him. But O'Brien doesn't want Winston to say 5. He wants Winston to believe it. That's how crazy it is. Not only does he want Winston to say, I don't see 4, I see 5. He wants Winston to actually believe that he sees 5. Like, that's how up it is. You know what I'm saying? But that's how it is. Like, they don't want us to see the truth. They want us to see the lie, and they want us to believe the lie. So, this is a secret to total control. Truth is whatever we tell you it is. Your eyes don't matter. Your intuition doesn't matter. Your logic doesn't matter. Only our narrative matters. This is the same technique used in gaslighting, propaganda, abusive relationships, colonial reprogramming, media manipulation, religion, and public schooling. They destroy your ability to trust your senses. I'll think for you. I'll feed you. You don't need yourself. You don't need anybody but me. But you're going to obey me. They destroy your ability to trust your intuition. Then they give you a new truth to cling to. And that is the blueprint of mind control. So after Winston breaks, O'Brien says, you're one of us. You're part of the party. You're the chosen one. This is not praise. It means your soul is gone. Your resistance is dead. You belong to us now. Oppressive systems always say, you're safe now. You're civilized now. You're one of us now. After breaking identity, this mirrors colonial assimilation, religious conversion, trauma bonding, narcissistic domination. So systems don't want your obedience. They want your devotion. So he even says, we are the inheritors. You are extinct. This is the part I recognize instantly. So O'Brien speaks just like the colonizers. We create human nature. We control life. We are the inheritors. You are instinct. He means we decide what humanity is. Your identity, your culture, and truth no longer exist. This is exactly how empires erase African cultures, indigenous cultures, native languages, spiritual systems, feminine wisdom, ancestral memory, emotional intelligence, and divine practices, right? The matriarch. It's not about killing bodies, it's about killing identity. It's cultural genocide, psychological extinction, ancestral truths buried under fear and trauma. But let's not forget, there was physical genocide as well. You know what I'm saying? And that makes me remember, like, what I just learned about Gaza, how they pretty much just fucking genocided, okay? So they can go and build their smart city. It's literally happening, and it's insane. But you must love Big Brother. So this is the final stage of slavery. O'Brien says, it's not enough to obey. You must love Big Brother because obedience is temporary. Love is permanent. Fear controls behavior. Love controls identity. This is trauma bonding. This is colonial bonding. This is religious bonding. This is narcissistic abuse. Systems want you to defend your own oppressor, worship your own cage, and love your own bondage. But the gag is, y'all do. Y'all love it. Y'all love y'all prison. When people love the system no longer needs force, and that's the real power. So let's talk about how consumerism became modern Big Brother. So this is where the movie becomes our world, right? Because people today love fast food. They love their holidays, love Amazon, TikTok, gossip, drama, porn, celebrity gossip, celebrity worship, shopping, designer brands, and comfort. They love the cage. They worship the distractions because they mistake dopamine for joy and noise for life, consumption for purpose. So it's like this is something fed to people like drugs. And even drugs is fed to people. So let's be so for real. So people can just escape the truth and live in this solitude of this fake happiness, right? So entertainment is the new anesthesia. Consumerism is the new religion. And comfort is the new chain. People don't obey the system anymore. They adore it. The system keeps you bouncing between overstimulated pleasure and underlying fear. Pleasure sedates you, fear paralyzes you. Together, they destroy awakening. They keep you trapped at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid. Survival, fear, stress, insecurity, and craving. A stressed mind cannot ascend. An addicted mind cannot awaken. This is the whole architecture of modern society. So, in the movie, Winston is looking out the window. He sees this woman. She's kind of thick around the hips, and she's singing. And he says, this world will be hers. She's beautiful. And the girl he was with beside him, you know, she was kind of skinny or whatever. And she said something like, well, her hips are like a meter around or something like that. And Winston says, that's her kind of beauty. That's just her kind of beauty. I thought that was pretty and poetic and whatever. But also, this was prophetic. He didn't mean physical beauty. He meant innocence, intuition, feminine wisdom, the divine feminine, emotional clarity, the unbroken spirit, the young, awakened feminine is the future. The world would be hers because she hasn't conquered. She hasn't been conquered yet. This is why the feminine is rising again. This is why awakened women feel called. This is why every divine feminine voice matters. They cannot chain the great mother. Now, and that means also that the matriarch is coming back in the matriarchal values, right? So it's not just about women, right? It's just about the matriarchal values. But let's be real. Women keep the world moving, right? So I like this question that was in the film. It says, are we just staying alive or are we staying human? You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of people around here are just trying to stay alive, but they've lost the importance of staying human. You know what I'm saying? Because living is not the same as being alive. A person can breathe, work, scroll, eat, pay bills, and survive. And that's the cycle they're on, like a repeating revolver. Wake up, go to work, do this, come home, and whatever. They might randomly do something random one day, but their life is so structured and so like, I cannot live like that. Like, I have to go with the flow, you know what I'm saying? But it's robotic. And so this would be the engineered human, okay? But they're spiritually dead. Humanity is emotion, intuition, love, truth, rebellion, soul, fire, consciousness, rage. So most people are alive, but very few are human. And they can pretend that they're human because what they go to church and do some praise and worship, you're still on this Saturn time. You're not on your own time. You do things. You don't question why you do them. You don't question what the government's doing. You back the government up. You close a blind eye. You know what I'm saying? So when Winston picks up the forbidden book, that's a moment of awakening for him. You know, and when any of us pick up a fucking book and decide to read and decide to learn something real, not what they give us in school, not the history books they give us in school, but maybe some real truth in these books. Once you decide to pick up a book that talks truth, then I might think you're not an engineered human, because that's the first steps of awakening, right? That was the first steps of my awakening. I literally read so many books. I literally have so many notebooks of notes. Like, That's literally what I've been doing for 10 years. But so it symbolizes seeking truth, researching, questioning, introspection, breaking the spell, rising from numbness, reading sacred knowledge, remembering who you are. And that's the journey, right? But you also have to do the inner work of healing. You can have your knowledge, but you have to have the inner work of healing generational trauma. And yeah, but I speak about that in my book. So 1984 is not a warning about the future. It's a mirror of colonial history, spiritual suppression, psychological warfare, trauma, modern consumer culture, the inverted matrix, emotional slavery, the death of intuition, the war on the feminine, the pacification of society, the addiction to sedation, the sacrifice of humanity for survival. But I will say it does start to speak on the present now and what's about to start happening with the biological data and the surveillance and artificial insemination and just the AI stuff, right? And biological data, like I say. So, let me see what else I wanted to speak on about this. Oh yeah, so I want to speak about the scapegoat thing. So I think one of the most powerful things people miss in 1984 is that ghosting is not the real enemy. He is the face of the enemy. He is the assigned enemy. He is the manufacturer enemy. And I pretty much feel like if you see the person on TV, that's not the one really doing it. And it's funny that ghosting sounds like Epstein. But I don't know. And also, it might be that they had a hand in the mess, but really, the really fucked up one, it is not showing their face. Okay? Okay. So, because every oppressive system needs a face, they need that symbol. They need someone to take the fall. A villain the masses can scream at. And y'all screaming at that motherfucker too. We hate Trump. Ah! You know, so maybe he's a scapegoat. I don't know. I'm just saying. I just think there's some real corrupted motherfuckers behind him. Okay? Like the real motherfuckers. But and some people call that the black hand. And when I was doing my research, it did say Trump is a scapegoat. Because the real party you got to worry about is the AI motherfucker party. The ones who pretend and they not going to stab you in the back. I mean, they not going to stab you in the front. They going to stab you in the back. Trump going to stab you in the front. Trump going to say, look, I don't fucking like you. He's going to tell you straight up. These AI motherfucking party, you know, because they have two parties, but sometimes they fight each other, but they both don't like us. That's why voting is so silly. They both want the power to control us. But I guess I would say like the Democratic Party is more so like, which it's not that serious, but I was gonna say I think the Democratic Party is more so like the AI side, and then the Republican is more like the military and Trump and the more aggressive side, like they'll take your food stamps away and they'll create maritime law and they'll fucking fight you in the street. But the Democratic part is going to sit there and say, oh, yes, sweetie, how can I help you? And then you leave the room, they're going to say, can't stand that bitch. You know what I'm saying? And they think they're God. They want to save you. And they think they're saving you. or they want to have this savior God complex, and they want to think they're the nice guys, but they use psychological warfare. They use more of the like manipulation. Like they fuck with your mind, and Trump will fuck with you in other ways. But yeah, so that's why I like people who dig deeper. Like this one chick on TikTok, she literally like, I just love people who think for themselves, but like she'll literally like, as a research thing, like she'll go back and say, oh, this CEO, and this is who's connected to who, and this is where the money leads, and this is where the money trail goes, so, but I have to give it to us though, honestly. Because honestly, I think we have more people who actually are awakening and questioning stuff rather than not. But I don't know. I'll just say like the awakening group is big. It is maybe not bigger, but it is big. And so that's good. But a public villain is always placed in front of the curtain, so the real players behind it remain untouched. So yeah. The system itself is a problem. The machine that enables the corruption remains untouched, invisible, and unexamined. So this is exactly how 1984 functions. Ghosting becomes the focus. Big Brother stays invisible. The crowd never questions the architects. People scream at the wrong enemy. This is not conspiracy thinking. This is psychology. As long as you have someone to blame, you'll never look at the one who built the cage. So now we're going to talk about the same decade as 1984, the late 70s and 80s, was one of the richest eras of spiritual rebellion and consciousness awakening. There were teachers trying to awaken the world to exactly the same psychological chains Orwell wrote about, but they were silenced, not with violence, but with dismissal, with mockery, with misunderstanding, and societal numbness. The world wasn't ready. These teachers spoke about awakening, emotional intelligence, trauma, mysticism, the divine feminine, consciousness, ego death, inner sovereignty, spiritual liberation, energy and vibration, leaving the matrix, breaking mental slavery. But people in the 80s were too distracted, too traumatized, too colonized mentally, too religiously constrained, too addicted to consumerism, too emotionally shut down, too spiritually disconnected. So their books were pushed aside, their voices drowned out, their messages delayed. Some examples are Ram Dass, Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts, Bell Hooks, Gloria and Zaldua, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, early Marianne Williamson, Black mystics and feminine teachers who never reached mainstream, indigenous writers speaking on colonization and inner healing. These people were not wrong. They were early. They were too early. And now, decades later, their work is resurfacing because consciousness is finally ready. They were the Goldsteins of that era, truth tellers treated as odd, radical, or dangerous, their wisdom buried under materialism and conformity. 1984 was warning us about psychological slavery, and at the same time, these teachers were trying to guide us out of it, and the system ignored both. And I want to say specifically for the divine feminine, she will also get ignored because what do people see her as? A sex symbol, and that's all they see her as. And, I hope this eventually changes, because it's like, I could go post a picture of my body and it'll get like 1 million views and likes, but I can sit here and talk some real shit on this video and, nobody's going to be wanting to click on it like that. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, that's just an example of how this is an inverted world. You know, we're sick or mentally ill. We're more worried about ass and titties and sex and not how to get the fuck up out of this matrix. Peace out, guys.